Morning, ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel and another top 5 for you. So today's video, we're going to look at the top 5 things that you don't need in Blitz. Yes, top 5 things that you don't need in Blitz. Now, there's a lot of things that people think they need in Blitz, but you know, you don't need it. Today we're going to just talk about five things that off the top of my head that I thought that you don't need. Of course, there are more things than these 5 that I'm going to talk about in this video that you don't actually need. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that you don't need is to buy premium tanks. And a lot of people are actually free to play in this game. They don't spend money in this game, and you can be free to play. Believe it or not, you can be a free to play player because you don't need to buy premium tanks at all. Now, Wargaming often do events where you can win premium tanks for absolutely free. So that's why you don't need to buy them if you don't want them. There's not many premium tanks out there that are pay to win. Of course, there is a few premium tanks out there that are just completely broken, OP, very, very good. But there's also tanks out there, tech tree tanks, that are equally as good. Yes, the tech tree tanks can be nerfed, etc. But they're still very, very good tanks. There's some still very good tanks out there. And with the amount of events Wargaming do, there's always going to be a premium tank that you can get. If you want to earn more credits, etc., there's always going to be events out there. I mean, recently, you've got the Panzer IV-S, you've had the Peugeot 46, you've had the 50 TP prototype, the Camp Panzer, the IS Defender. There's been loads of tanks, good tanks as well, that have recently, or not just recently, but over the years, came in an event. I mean, look at the Smasher and the not the Smasher, sorry, look at the Hellsing and the Dracula. They were free tanks when they was first introduced to the game. They were free tanks. Now, you could, in the event that was, you could either pick between the Hellsing or the Dracula. I got the Dracula for free, and then I just paid a little bit of money to get the Hellsing as well, but not as much money as some people have paid for it. But of course, now the Hellsing's not great because of the Annihilator, but the Dracula is still a fun tank. It's still a good tank, a fun tank to play, and for me it was absolutely free. I paid nothing for that tank. So of course you can play this game for free. You don't need to buy premium tanks, no matter what anyone tells you. I've got friends out there that have mega good stats, and they haven't paid a penny. Look at his Royal Fatness. He's one of the best players in this game, and he has not spent a penny in this game, like nothing. And he's one of the best players, and he's still got premium tanks. He's got premium tanks because he's won gold in tournaments, etc. He's won tanks, and you can do that as well. Of course, Wargaming do the videos where you can watch videos where you get 10 gold. You watch them for a whole year, and that's basically around 18,500 gold. That is one tier 10 tank for free every year, and that is for a free to play player. So I think the main thing, the most important thing that you don't need is money. And that's what I'm saying. You don't need money to play this game. So that you can be a free-to-play player. You can be a free-to-play player. A lot of people are not free-to-play because they like the look of some tanks. Not just because they're OP, but they like the look of the tanks, and they are decent tanks. And they're fun tanks. So yeah, a free-to-play player. You don't need to be a pay-to-win player. You don't need to buy premium tanks. Now, the next up, this is more for the newer players as well out there. You don't need to stick to one line. Now, this is something when I started the game, I never did. You got players out there now, especially now after update 5.5, when Wargaming removed a lot of tanks, a lot of the tech tree tanks. So now it is a lot easier to get to tier 10. when I first started the game, I think I had about 5 or 6 tier 5s and tier 6s and even tier 7s before I ever had a tier 10. Of course, people now will start the game, they'll start a line like the Tiger line, and they will go all the way up to the E100, and then once they've got the E100, they'll just spam the E100. And the thing with that is it won't take long to get to the E100, or it won't take long to get to any tier 10 if you're just grinding one line. And before you know it, you get to tier 10, you're not very good, you haven't completely learnt the game, people rage at you because you're not a great player. So that's where I say don't stick to one line. If you're not ready to go up to tier 10, don't go up to tier 10. Simple. There's no rush, there's no rule that you have to be in a tier 10. So if you're not ready to play tier 10, don't just grind another line. If you struggle in like the tier 8 or tier 9, go back down the line, or go back and start a new line from tier 1 all the way up into tier 7, tier 8. And then again, if you're still not ready for tier 10, you do it all again. And this is exactly what I did. Like I said, I had probably 3 or 4, maybe even more tier 8s before I even had my first tier 10 tank. So don't be afraid. There's no written rule where you have to get tier 10. If you don't enjoy playing tier 10, don't play tier 10. There are plenty of other tanks out there, plenty of other tiers that you can play that is fun tanks to play. Just like now, this game, we're going to watch MJ Gamer. Very, very good good player, one of the best on NA. And this tank now, the VK45, is a very good tank. It's a tech tree tank, and anyone can get this tank. So yeah, don't always stick to one line. Don't stick to one line if you're not ready to move up the tiers. And again, just like the you don't have to buy premium tanks, this is equally as important. So yeah, because it will make you a better player overall, because by the time you then get to tier 10, hopefully you would have learned a lot about the game. You would have learned a lot about angling, side scraping, hold down, the use of your gun depression, your penetration, everything like that before you get to the big boys in tier 10. So another thing, talking about sort of along that lines, is you don't need stats. Like, you don't need amazing stats. And now this has been like, a lot of people want stats, and I've seen people ignore tanks. So there's been like a one-shot tank and then a full hit point tank. I've seen the good players. I know the good players like Fatness, Driddles, etc. I know they will ignore the one-shot tank to go for damage. And I get people have targets, you know, they want a certain amount of damage per game. I do get that, but for me personally, stats, I don't give a fuck about stats. Stats means nothing. I just want to play the game and have fun, and winning is having fun. And I always say, don't always just go for the damage. Like, don't go for, just go for the kills. If there's a one-shot tank there, take him out. Just take that one-shot tank out. Then after that, that's one tank less, and then you can go and deal damage. And that's where my next, so even sort of stats in general doesn't matter too much about your win rate. I've seen players out there with 40% win rate that has completely carried the game. So yeah, don't worry about your stats. You don't need stats. You don't need amazing stats. And just as I said there, another thing that I'm going to add in this top 5 is don't just focus on damage. And again, this is sort of in with the stats, but yeah, don't just focus on damage, because focus on damage could actually lose you the game. Go for whatever tank you need to go for, whether that'll be a one-shot Scorpion G right here or a full hit point ISU 152 that is over there. Just go for the kills, go for the win. Don't worry about your stats. Stats, I mean, it's a game. You need to have fun in this game, and winning games will make you have fun. And overall, if you go for the one-shot tanks, you might just get the damage anyway, because you're going to have time to get the damage because you've just cleared a tank. Like now, if MJ would have left a one-shot tank, it's a 3 versus 3 now. It would have been a 3 versus 4. But so yeah, overall, if you just go for the tanks, go for the one shots, clear the tanks, you'll probably get more damage anyway. The only time I honestly focus on damage is when it's 100% a loss. You know you're going to lose. There's no chance of you winning it. So 1 versus 7, and then yeah, maybe go for the. You know it's a loss anyway, so you might as well go for the damage. That's the only time I ever go for damage over sort of the win, because you've already lost the game. So yeah, don't focus on just damage. Go for the kills, clear the tanks, and overall you'll have more fun. Your stats will go up, not just your damage, but your win rate and everything like that will go up anyway. So yeah, don't just focus on the damage. Now, lastly, something that you don't need in Blitz, and that is to be toxic. As you've seen, I've got a World of Dummies event that sort of talks about all this, and not just toxic people, but you know, really bad players or trolls or anything like that. But toxic in this game is something that needs to be stamped out. There's no reason for it, and some of the shit people say in this game is like, people can sort of commit suicide and stuff like that because of what people say in this game. They can be bullied, and there's no reason for it. There is no reason to be toxic in a game that people were playing just to have fun. So yeah, those are my top things that you don't need in Blitz. Let me know what you think you don't need in Blitz. If it's not one of my options, let me know in the comments that things that you don't need in Blitz. Other things like boosters, you don't really need boosters, but again, people use them. I don't use boosters. The only booster I use is the gold booster. Other than that, I don't really use boosters. So that's another thing that you don't really need, but it's still something that can help you out. So yeah, as I've said, let me know in the comments below your thoughts and what you think that you don't need in this game. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsyreplays, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye. With